Hello, podcast listeners. This is the Jupes 2011 audiobooks and music podcast. Welcome back. My real name is Mana Weezar, and I am going to be reading you Chapter 2 of Liza Scottoline's Feared. You know the book. It's called Feared by Liza Scottoline. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Scottoline. One of those. Alright. Well, here goes. Feared by Liza Scottoline. Chapter 2. Mary nibbled on a cupcake, hoping it would calm her stomach. But it didn't work. That was the double-edged sword of pregnancy. If you didn't eat, you felt nauseated. But if you ate, you threw up. It didn't help that she was being soothed, and by Machiavelli. Her thoughts churned while she watched Judy wolf down a cupcake and Benny pace the conference room in front of the skyline of Philadelphia, topped by Billy Penn on City Hall. From this angle, he famously looked like he had a erection, but Benny didn't notice. "I cannot believe this," Benny shouted, throwing up her hands. Mary and Judy exchanged glances as they sat at the table. They knew from experience that she started pacing. There we go, pacing. It looked like packing, but yeah. Pacing. It was best to stay out of her way, like the Asa racing up and down the northeast corridor, and not the quiet car. "This is outrageous," Benny pivoted when she reached the credenza, then paced in the other direction, waving the complaint in the air. "A failure to hire case. Brought by men. Against us? Do you believe it? Do you even believe it?" Mary gathered the question was rhetorical, and Judy reached for another cupcake, this time for blue frosted instead of pink, wondering if the choice was intentional or politically correct. "I worked my whole entire life to have my own law firm." Benny shook her head as she strode to the wall. Then Snap turned around like an Olympic swimmer at the end of the pool. "I was on my own, and you guys both know it. Then I met you two. I wasn't hiring only women. The gender didn't matter to me at all. Remember when you started with me as associates?" "Totally," Mary answered, since Judy's mouth was full. Her worries were already turning into potential costs of the lawsuit. The firm had an insurance carrier, but it wouldn't cover acts outside the scope of employment, which could arguably include intentional employment discrimination. The three of them could be on the hook for the damages. And her husband Anthony didn't have a job. "You remember you were big firm refugees? I hired you both because you were the best, because you're terrific. And we crushed it, the three of us. Case after case, we made the firm a success, driving through thick and thin. Remember when we almost went bankrupt?" "Yes," Mary answered. "They almost been evicted from their offices. The caseload had gone up and down, and everything she could to make payroll and not fire anyone. Back then, Mary hadn't been sure she even wanted to be a lawyer. But then she found special educational law, which was her true niche. She did well and did good for children. Now here we all are, over a decade later, and all of us partners, and this happens. Benny raised the complaint like a flaming torch, but did not like Lady Liberty more like an angry mob. My bad, I read that wrong. You know whose fault this is? Mine. All mine. I've been too lax. No, you haven't, Mary said, meaning it. She was already thinking along. Different line. Benny, with respect, you're on the wrong track. How? Benny whirled around. Are you going to tell me this isn't a disaster? No, it is. But I have some ideas about how it came about. Mary gestured to the charity caddy corner of hers, opposite Judy's. Please sit down. I have a hunch. Judy wiped crumbs off her chin. Good. Mare, I like your hunches. Good, Mare, I like your hunches. Thanks. Mary rallied as Benny stalked over, threw the complaint onto the polished conference table, and sat down. So Nick Machiavelli filed this lawsuit against us. He threatened that someday he'd get a rematch. You remember? I remember. Benny folded her arms. Judy reached for the coffee carafe. I hate that guy. I hate everything about him. He's a phony, a fraud. Can you imagine trying to convince people that you're a direct descendant of the real Machiavelli? It is his real last name, and I know his family from the neighborhood. Mary had gone to Goretti, a sister high school to Nick Machiavelli's school, Newman, and his pretensions were the least ridiculous thing about him. The problem is, the man is an excellent lawyer, mainly because he's ruthless. Nothing stops him. The ends justify the means. So maybe it's in his DNA. He's not going to get away with this. He won't even know what hit him. I'm going to devote the full resources of this firm to this litigation. We're going to pulverize him. Benny's blue eyes flashed in battle mode, and Mary had never seen her like this. She knew that Benny loved a good fight, but she didn't know that Benny loved a good war. My point is, think about what's going on here. We know the shenanigans he pulled on that last case, right? He waged a proxy war. He sent lawyers to oppose me, so now we know how he works. He's indirect, right? Benny answered, nodding. And Judy shifted forward in the chair. Where are you going with this? What's your hunch? Think about this. 2 of these plaintiffs are lawyers. None of us met. We don't even know where their resumes are. We have to go hunt them up. Mary slid the complaint over, checking the caption. But the third Stephen McManus is the one from the interview with John. Benny interrupted. I still cannot believe Foxman said what he said. I don't want to fire him. I want to kill him. How impudent can you possibly be? And, wait. Mary raised a hand, probably the only time she had ever since Benny Rosato. John told us that the interviewee was chatty, and somehow the conversation must have come around to how it is to work with women. And that's when John throws in his 2 cents that he feels out of place, which ends up in the complaint. Now, what does that tell you? That John should be fired? No, think about it. Mary got so excited she felt the baby kick, but this wasn't the time to say so. We know Machiavelli has wanted a rematch. There hasn't been a case on which we're opposing counsel, so he made one. I bet that one way or another, these plaintiffs were connected to Machiavelli before he became their lawyer. Benny blinked. Judy's mouth dropped open. Right? Mary felt the baby kick again. John advertised for an associate, and I bet Machiavelli saw the ad, sent McManus to us for a job interview, coached him to get John talking about what it is like to work with us, and he had the others send in resumes too. In other words, he manufactured the lawsuit again. Benny's blue eyes rounded. Yes, that's completely possible. They don't have much of a case without Foxman's statement. It's essentially an admission. Judy gasped. That must be what happened. John was set up. He was entrapped. Benny looked over. He still shouldn't have said it, Carrier. I know, and I feel terrible that he thinks that. I don't care what he thinks. I care what he says, Benny snorted. And it was wrong and disloyal for him to say such a thing to anybody outside of this firm, especially an interviewee. I would have fired him if I thought it wouldn't hurt our defense, or if he wouldn't file a retaliation claim against us. Judy frowned. He would never do that. Never say never, Benny shot back. But Mary wanted to return to the subject. John was a great guy, and she knew he had a great heart, even serving as the devoted guardian of his brother, William, who had cerebral palsy. Something told Mary that John had been taken advantage of by Machiavelli, and all she had to do was convince Benny. So, Benny, my point is that nothing we or John did really caused this lawsuit. It's not that we're too lax, and we certainly don't discriminate against men. We were set up to. Benny's smartphone started ringing, and she slid it out of her pocket, checked the screen, and pressed the button to decline the call. That's a reporter. I know, from the Inquirer. Yeah, Inquirer. It must be about this case. The timing can't be coincidental. Agree. Judy's phone started ringing, face up on the conference table. She glanced at the screen, declining the call. And that's somebody from the ABA journal. Mary's phone rang too, but she let it go, assuming it was more of the same. Baby kicked again, and she wondered if he or she would be a lawyer or a reporter one day. After she stopped causing so much gas. Suddenly there was a knock on the door, which opened, and Marshall popped her head through. "Excuse me, but there's media calling for you about the lawsuit. Do you want to take these calls? What do we say?" "No comment," Benny, Mary, and Judy answered in lawyerly unison. "Got it, thanks." Marshall flashed a shaky smile before she closed the door. Mary heaved a sigh. Honestly, this is how Machiavelli operates. He'll try to ruin our reputation. His goal isn't just to win this lawsuit. It's to crush us. Judy cringed. "You're exaggerating, right?" "Not this time," Mary answered with hesitation. Benny mulled it over. "D'Annunzio, come on. The damages can't be that much." "It's not the damages. It's what just happened. The press. He's trying to ruin our reputation as a firm, and it's so gossipy. They'll all run with the ball. How do you think potential clients will react?" "They'll stay away in droves." Benny bore down. "Then we lock the load. Machiavelli has been circling us for too long, and it's time that we finished him off for good." Judy nodded. "Agree, we can take him." Mary forced a smile, but she knew Machiavelli better than they did. So she was less than optimistic. In fact, less than optimistic was her middle name. Benny checked her watch. "We need a lawyer ASAP. We can't represent ourselves, since we're going to be fact witnesses." "Who would you hire, Benny? Should we go big firm or little?" Mary shifted, trying to get comfortable, but there was a human being on her bladder. Yeah, human being on her bladder. Machiavelli runs his own shop. He's probably got 12 associates working for him. He's going to throw everything he has behind this case too. Judy sipped her coffee. "I say small firm. There are plenty of great boutique firms in the city. We want somebody who will dedicate themselves to us, who identifies with us." Mary didn't agree. "I say big firm. We want to show a force. But do we hire a man or a woman?" "I say man, for obvious reasons." "I say woman because we want to win." Judy smiled crookedly. Benny scoffed. "I'll be damned if I pick a lawyer by gender. I never have, and I'm not about to start now." "Then who?" Judy turned to Benny, waiting for her answer. And Mary did the same, even though they were both Benny's partners. They used to be her associates, and old habits die hard. "We need to think strategically in our choice of counsel. It kills me that we can't represent ourselves, because we're the best." "I second that motion." Judy smiled. Mary added, "And obviously we need somebody who's brilliant, but who won't be intimidated by Machiavelli." Benny's eyes narrowed in thought. "Not just somebody who's not intimidated, but somebody who can deal with him, who can deal with how manipulative Machiavelli is, and the fact that he plays outside the rules. Machiavelli is intense, relentless, unconventional, which can throw even the best of lawyers off their game. It's like the guerrilla warfare against conventional warfare. You're right, Mary said, changing her mind. So that would leave out most big firm lawyers, because they tend to proceed in an orderly fashion. Judy shifted forward. And, come to think of it, it would eliminate smaller firms too. We need a shop with the horsepower to deal with the crap storm that's coming. Even the media. I got it, Benny snapped her fingers. I know exactly who we need. Roger Vitez. He's a lawyer's lawyer. I never heard of him, Judy frowned. Me neither, Mary said, worried. She wasn't sure she wanted to place her legal career in the hands of some unknown quantity. Because that's the way he likes it. He's a secret weapon. Benny picked up her phone. I hope I can reach him. He doesn't have a cell phone. Mary didn't like the sound of that either. What kind of lawyer doesn't have a cell phone? One who doesn't need the work, Judy interjected. Benny, does he specialize in employment discrimination? No. Legal malpractice. Lawyers hire Roger when their ass is in a sling. Benny thumbed through her phone contacts. He's a little odd. No suit and tie, no phone, no watch, but he never loses. He has a great reputation. Judy caught Mary's eye. Then how come I never heard of him? Think about it. Benny lifted an eyebrow. Didn't you ever wonder why you never read about legal malpractice cases in the newspaper, even in legal journals? Because lawyers who get sued don't talk about it. The bar takes care of its own, and newspapers take care of advertisers. Judy frowned. So legal malpractice is booming, which is good and bad news. Mary remained worried. But does he know employment law? Benny put her phone to her ear. I'm sure he knows enough. And he's the strategic choice for this case. The only question is, will he take us? Judy scoffed. Who wouldn't? We're arguably the most high-profile firm in the city. Plus, we're nice, Mary added. Speak for yourself, Benny said without a smile. That is the end of Chapter 2 of Feared by Liza Scottoline, whatever. Okay. Now for the music part of this third episode of my podcast. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed the audiobook part of this. Okay. Hang on, bear with me. Like I said, this is my first podcast ever. Okay, I'm gonna play the first two songs of this CD that I have from Super Chick, Beauty from Pain. Just the first two songs. I don't really know the name of the first two songs, but here goes. Yeah, I love Super Chick. They're pretty cool. They're a Christian rock band. That was Super Chick's anthem. The song, it's called Anthem by Supertrick, by their album Beauty from Pain. That was track 1. I forgot what song goes next, but if I remember after listening to it, I'll tell you. Because apparently listening to that one helped me remember what it was called. Yeah, I'm not that good at remembering things. I wish I was. I'm not that good at remembering names, but I'm good at remembering other things, like the sound of the music, remembering the lyrics, and all that other stuff. Other than that, I hope you're having fun. Man, I wanted to sing that first song. Ooh, very fun.